Welcome to Dare, the show for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders who dare to shape the future. Your hosts today are Ned Hayes and Cecilia Mariani. Dare is brought to you by Darwaf, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. Today, the Dare podcast is really excited to welcome Rix Kramlich to the show. Rix is an experienced software executive and entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience, including work at companies like Macromedia, ABB, IT Technologies, and most recently Blurb. He's played a really key role in the growth and exit of 7 startups, and he's co-founded several startups himself, including DXM, which we'll talk about today, which is an AI design platform for brands. And he joined the founders last fall as CEO. So pretty new venture for Rix. Welcome to the show, Rix.
Hey, thanks, Ned, for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, we ran into your DXM team at the AI demo session brought to us by the Oregon Venture Fund. That was just a few months ago. That was the first time your team demoed publicly, right? So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
So why did you go public then?
Well, first of all, again, thanks for having me on. No, it was, the company's actually been around over a year now, and it's got a really interesting little bit of founder story. I wish I could say I was one of the founders, but certainly core team. My good friends Lee Swearingen and Kathy Clark founded the business over a year ago. They're designers. They have their own UI, UX, and branding agency up in Bend. And, they saw AI coming along and decided that instead of getting steamrolled by new technology, they were going to embrace it fully and try to figure out how they could use it for themselves in the context of their own design, practice. So they jumped in, with both feet and realized that what they had on their hands was probably going to be a good product. And so they actually had me up to Bend. I live in San Francisco. Our CPO, John Kremer, is down here as well. We have 2 designer and engineer out in Portland, actually. So they had me up to Bend last September, and I saw what they were doing, and my jaw dropped. It was the realization that as long as I've been in the design and software world, this is fundamentally going to change design, and ultimately for the better. I'd love to talk to some of that point too. But not only is it technologically really profound, but it was really going to do some great things for the industry as well. So they asked me to come in and turn the product into a business, and that's how I joined the company. And OVF up in Portland asked us to come. We started selling to some customers as a managed service, and we felt the time was right to go show the world what we were doing. It was a great demo.
Right. Well, speaking of design, I'm just going to deviate a little here. You just have an amazing background in design, and you met some of these guys in the design industry, Adobe, Macromedia. So could you share a little bit of your design history?
Yeah, sure. Well, listen, one of the things I've learned is, especially in the design space, it's highly nuanced. You really have to be a designer to create tools for designers and technologies for designers. It's really hard to do that without that direct experience. And everyone on the team has been in this industry for a long, long time. But more importantly, we care about it. And we care about designers. We care about good design. We understand, too, that the quality of the content that designers create for their businesses. And we are focused on businesses and brands specifically. It has to be really, really, really good. And that's the ground floor of anything that you're going to be doing. And we do that really well, and we collectively understand quality when we see it. And if we believe it's good quality, then we believe our customers will believe it's good quality too. So the team has the DNA to understand, what a good solution is going to be, and we have the experience to put together a good product and a good company to go to market. And that's really the best part about it.
Absolutely. So I was at the demo, and like you, I was kind of blown away by it. But for those who weren't there at the demo, tell us what DXM is doing. What's the product?
Great question, and I'll try to be succinct. We call it an AI design platform for brands. What in the world does that mean? A platform infers automation, right? I spent a good portion of my career in manufacturing and supply chain, and there's a lot of automation, and those platforms the concept of a platform really hasn't been part of the design dialogue because it's typically done by tools, people and tools. And, if you look at the way that content is developed in creative services, you take a brand guide, which is a document, a person interprets that, and then they come up with a design and then they execute it in tools like Photoshop and, Creative Cloud or Canva or something like that. And that paradigm has been going on for 30 years now or something like that.
Right.
So what Kathy and Lee understood was that with AI, you could build an agent, effectively a model of a brand, a digital brand that understood the brand itself, right? At all levels of nuance, including things like the color palette, the mission, the product catalog, everything that could constitute what a brand would be can live inside a private model, its own, a company's own LLM. It's a new form of corporate IP effectively. And with that digital model, you can attach that to prompt engineering systems that can talk to LLMs, can talk to AI services. And then you can get into automating the process of creating on-brand content. And so these are just an intersection of things that have all happened really fast within the, span of about 12 months. And you take into the account all the different services that are coming and how good they're getting. You're creating great new opportunities for new solutions. And DXM is a manifestation of that. It is taking this concept of a model and AI services and allowing creatives to automate beautiful work.
Right. So creatives can actually use an AI product that serves their needs, right?
Absolutely. And that's what this is really all about, Ned. One of the things, I learned, especially when I was at Blurb, Blurb had 1 million customers. We did a massive amount of digital marketing. I mean, we were constantly just cranking out material. So there's this challenges, there's a tension that exists right now in the market around the demand for new customized content all the time in all sorts of different channels, right? Email and social and whatever. And, it's very hard for the businesses to keep up with that demand. So they're always making a trade-off between velocity, scale, cost, quality, and consistency based on what the constraints are, right? Time or money or staffing or whatever. And the real inflection that's happening here, the disruption that's happening here is a concept like DXM's platform allows you to meet the demands of quality and consistency and scale and velocity as a system. Now it has to be managed by talented creative. And that's the important thing. Human in the loop is still a critical factor here, but the systems are enabling scale and customization like it's never been seen before right now.
Right. What's fascinating about the demo I saw too was the consistency of creative output. Like right now, if I order something up from Stable Diffusion or Hugging Face or whatever, it's going to come out with 1 million different variants. But if I want to have a consistent set of brand identities, it's going to be really hard to reproduce that. It seems kind of random. And so you've solved for that, right?
Yeah, we've solved for that. And that's really the watershed moment that I saw that you could, listen, what's going on right now is it reminds me of actually a lot what happened in the mid 90s around, websites. Remember you had to learn how to code HTML in order to build a website. And then I was at Macromedia when we came up with Dreamweaver, and it allowed designers to design and not have to worry about HTML coding. If you wanted to see it, it was down there. I see the same thing happening right here. Right now, if you're going to go into Midjourney, you can create a beautiful image through engineered prompts, and you really have to know prompting. And, what we're doing here is enabling not only consistency because the AI agent actually informs prompts. It writes prompts for the multiple AI services that we have tied into the platform, right? So it ensures quality downstream. Is writing those prompts, knowing that Midjourney and Dolly and ChatGPT and all these other services that we integrate with are going to create consistent output, and without having to get into the job of writing prompts.
Right. So you've removed some of the complexity for designers, and they can still get consistent output, which is fantastic. But I know one thing that creative professionals really worry about is the ethics of all of this. I mean, it's not just like changing of jobs or taking jobs away, but it's also like data sourcing. So I know that Adobe has done a really smart thing in terms of
Mhm.
making sure that their AI capabilities are based only on actual licensed art. So they actually
Yeah.
have a license for it. They aren't just scooping up every designer's pieces and putting it in. Adobe has done the right thing there. What is DXM doing to make sure that your data sourcing is also ethical?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll mention number one that as I mentioned, we're sort of a modular system. We allow multiple
Mhm.
services to connect, and I think Adobe announced just last week that they're going to have an API for Firefly, which is a service that we can integrate into our system.
Got
So
it.
number
Okay.
one, users can in our system choose which engines they want to use. If they have a problem with one, they can exclude it and go with another, and so forth. But I think more holistically here, if you go into any of those solutions and you create a prompt and get an image, it's going to be an aggregate of the experience that model has learned, right? So it gets to
Okay.
your points about what has it been learning on and so forth. So the imagery is a byproduct of what you're asking that system to create. With an agent-based approach, you're putting in all of your own reference images, you're putting in your own content. So the training around what the content is going to be is your own content, right?
Right, right. It's your
It's your
core
own
IP
reference
at times.
images.
Yeah, it's your
Exactly.
core
And
IP.
then what you're doing, you're telling the models what to make through the prompts. So it's not relying on its collective wisdom of content. You're informing the engine what to make based on what your reference content is. And that's a big difference and a big change and how this new content, especially for businesses, is going to be developed through agents.
Right. Well, so one thing that you didn't mention that's important too is artists rightly worry about their data or their brand or their core IP being ingested by an LLM.
Yeah.
So does DXM protect people in that manner?
Yeah, we're not sharing any of your data at all. That
Okay.
sits in the private agent. We're just basically instructing the models what to do, right? And so we're not giving them any information about the business itself. It's we interpret the information into the prompts, which then are directing the engines what to do. We're not offering up reference material for them to make. So that is
Right.
an important thing and something that we hear a lot about especially when we're dealing with like agencies too. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of different creatives. There are creatives inside of businesses, and there are also creatives inside of agencies too. And this is something that comes up as a topic all the time with the agencies. It's high on their list of issues to deal with, and I think we have a pretty good solution for that. And but we're all learning at the same time, and that's an important distinction too. This is a fast moving market. We're all learning.
Right, right. Well, speaking of fast moving market, I mean, you guys came out of the gate with a really strong offering. How did you do it? What's your secret sauce there?
Well, listen, at the beginning, you gave me my long intro. I feel like an old guy. I've been around this market a long time, and one thing I've come to learn is technologies come and go, but ultimately it's people,
Hmm.
right? It's the people who really come together to do great things. So I will, credit our team for really knowing this space really well, and I'll also credit, the customers that we're working with, and they've been a lot of fun to work with. One of the things we're all learning together is that there's a new creative process that's emerging from this, and we're all in this together to learn and advance the state of the art for design. And I think it's that collaboration, it's that shared knowledge that then we turn into technology. Some of it proprietary, whatever. That's not as important. What's important is everyone working together to try to create a new, better world for designers and for design itself. So
Right.
that's the secret sauce, quite frankly.
Got it. So you mentioned the people. How did you meet these people? Like I know I mentioned Adobe and Macromedia, but tell me more about how you actually got to know these amazing designers.
Well, listen. Well, first of all, Lee and Kathy, I've known since we worked at Macromedia. And for those of you who don't know Macromedia, it was bought by Adobe in 2004. And there was a really interesting DNA that existed at Macromedia because we were sort of multimedia, and that meant there was programming involved, right? So it wasn't all just content creation and art. There was a technical side to how that business operated. And it was all part of how we operated as participants in the business. And, Lee, when he ran creative service, had the toughest job in the world because he had to stand up in front of 5,000 professional designers every year at our conference and make his stuff look better than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So, he really has always been on the cutting edge of how designers think and what they need. And I've been friends with them forever. And that's an important thing too. And so they, just called me out of the blue and brought me in. Now, they brought in Megan and Topher on the technical side and design side. And then when I was at Blurb, Blurb did about 30% of its business with Adobe. People were making books from InDesign and Lightroom and things like that. And I got a chance to meet John Kremer, who at that time was running global product operations and ecosystem. Really liked him. And we had a lot of fun together, building more business for Blurb. And when Blurb, when I left Blurb and came over here, first person I thought of is to run product was John. So
Right.
really great guy, and he has 7 years of experience over Adobe and many years before that at companies like Yahoo, for example. But just really great people, know their stuff, and we also understand too, where this can go too, just based on our experience. One of the things I just want to throw in there is not only do you want to be able to create content, but you want to be able to extend that content to the rest of the business. And that's going to be something that you learn from experience. Again, John ran ecosystem. I've done business development. Our platform will ultimately plug into downstream systems like digital asset management, marketing systems, digital marketing systems, and so forth, because businesses don't want to change their workflows. Those processes already exist. So we know enough to know where we call it quits, right? We're going to create APIs so the businesses can actually consume this content without disrupting their own workflows. And that's an important part of how we see the world and how we see the system evolving and working in the big picture.
Right. Well, talking about disruption, I mean, you're definitely going to disrupt, and the whole generative AI world is disrupting creative professionals.
Yeah.
So this is going to be pretty disruptive. How is DXM going to affect things negatively or positively?
That's a big question. I'm going to start answer it in two parts. I'll try not to be too long-winded. On just the product stuff itself, I think the thing that we get really excited about is the notion that there's a new form of we can allow designers to be designers, right? Usually you've heard the 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. That's pretty typical, the production environment that people operate in. We're bringing forth this concept of styles. So if you have an AI agent, what you're going to do is say, well, I want to create something. What do I want to create? I want to create photography. So you have to create a branded style for your photography. So you're never, honestly, with this type of technology, you'll never go to a stock library ever again. You will make your own, customized, beautiful photography that's in your style. So you have to design the style. So we've created a tool set which designers will use to create their brand of photography, for example. And that's what they're going to spend their day doing now. And creating variables or parameters that people outside the business or systems outside of the business can call to customize that content. Are you going to change the demographics of what's in the picture, the location, whatever? So it's going to change the nature of how design operates, and the production is going to happen by the platform, and it's going to be driven by the needs of the business. That's the first exciting thing that we actually see happening here. The other thing I think is worth mentioning is just the nature of how the industry is progressing, right? And the tent. One of the things I've always seen is when new inflections occur, people always say, oh, this is going to be bad for design. It's going to hurt designers and so forth. But the reality is, and if you look at history, it's always benefited designers and design, and it's actually opened the tent to new people. And we've seen that historically through desktop publishing revolution, when editing software like Photoshop came along, that increased the scale of what people could do and the number of people who could participate in the market. When Canva did their thing in 2013 today, that opened the tent to a lot of new people who could get involved in creative design. And we're seeing that here now, whether it
Mhm.
be through DXM or other solutions. It's just going to allow more people to be more creative, and it's going to be better for design in the big picture. I'm absolutely positive of that.
That's really great to hear because I've heard a lot of doom and gloom from people who are creatives. So hearing from someone who works closely with creatives, who is a creative professional, feeling like these tools can actually add to the palette that we're painting with is great.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It is literally it's a new palette. And listen, I get to sit in on what we're doing with our customers and watch our own designers pioneer with our customers how this process works.
Mhm.
And I can just tell you firsthand, they love it. It is incredibly creative, and with the level of control that you can put into this now, that was the key change, is that level of control that you can exert. And then once you can do that, you can iterate and ideate at a scale that is not never been possible before. And what we're seeing happen too, which is really interesting, is that a lot of the content comes out of a system like this production ready. Doesn't mean that people aren't going to be using Creative Cloud to do post or something like that, but they're
Mhm.
not going to be doing all of their creative content in the production in those tools. They'll be doing some of it there. They'll be doing post production on some of the stuff that comes out of our platform. We're going to see a new ecosystem evolve, and I think people are going to have a lot of fun with it. More importantly.
That's fantastic. Well, so you've painted a really great picture of this. What's your next step? What is DXM going to provide a product that people can actually use?
Okay, well, we get a lot of get that question a lot. So, as I mentioned, Ned, we're actually delivering this as a service. So, listen, if anyone likes what they're hearing, you can go to dxm.com. You can book a briefing with us, and we'll talk to you about what you're doing. And we're taking a limited number of customers right now, and doing some really great work with people. I would expect the self-serve product to come to market later this summer, probably early fall at the latest. And at that point, you'll be able to take your brand guide and put it into the system, have that turned into a brand agent. You can design your styles, and then you're going to be using a generative asset library to make content for yourself. And then people outside of the four walls of creative services are going to be able to self-serve their own content.
Mhm.
So, and we have customers right now using that latter part in the field, and it's pretty cool to watch people make their own content, literally. And that's what this whole new world is about. It's allowing everybody to participate in the creative process. So look for that later this year. We're excited to bring it to market, and we know people are going to love it when it happens.
Fantastic. Great. Well, we'll make sure to list your domain name in the notes so people can get there and get going on the self serve version. I did want to ask you one important question. I figure you'll have all the answers. What does the future of AI look like? Can you look into your crystal ball, Rix?
Oh man, you remind me of like when Flash came and we introduced Flash at Macromedia. I remember that. And if anyone asked me, like what does the future of the web look like? You
Right. I
know,
think that was 1995 or 1996
yeah,
back
exactly.
there.
Listen, I was there. I remember when it was called Smart. But listen, one thing I do know, and that is when you have these, when things come together, right? It's always an intersection of a variety of things that make bigger things happen, right? It's just not one
Mhm.
thing. So it's not just AI. We're talking about the application level here. We're all learning so much. A lot of things are coming together. The distribution mechanisms are there. Going back to that level of when Flash happened, I just knew that it was going to be a better internet. I said this is going to really make things more interesting, more interactive, more compelling. And as we look at AI, and given my perspective, I am again very confident that AI is going to have a bigger impact on what's going on in so many aspects of our daily life, even much more so than I think the web did in the mid 90s. I think this is profound. And I can't tell you what it's going to look like. I can just tell you it's going to be impactful, it's going to be profound. And if smart people get together with the right intent, great things are going to happen. So that's just I'm an optimist in that regard, and I do believe that things will be better. And we're going to be surprised.
Great. So the last question that we always ask on this podcast is, what do you dare to dream? What future do you imagine you're creating, Rix?
Well, for those of us in the software world, or more specifically the startup world, dreaming is a job requirement. you you have to dream all day long and try to think through what is possible. What we're trying to do is, I'll go right back to the beginning here, is really try to empower designers to be better designers. We really do care about design. We care about designers. We care about the direction that design is going. And I think what we're really dreaming about is a world where we just improve people's lives and we improve their creativity and their output in the big picture. I think that's what we dream of. And the people who use this technology and are creative with it. That's what we're all about.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that vision and for your time today, Rix. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Ned. I really appreciate you having me on and letting me have a chance to talk about what we're doing in the world of design and AI. It's a great topic. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Take care, Rix.
Take care.
Thanks to our guests today for their great insights on Dare, the podcast for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders. If you'd like your story to be featured on Dare, just contact us at info@darwaft.com. Dare is brought to you by Darwaft, the tech team that can make your vision a reality.